Salutations. This will be a cool, interesting video. Definitely one to promote your own research. What kind of spawned this is a conversation I had with a friend, somebody I've known since high school. Probably it's been a few weeks ago now. But during the conversation, one, he's really into biblical things. So he quotes the Bible quite a bit and things. And the concept of giants had come up. And during that, he had mentioned that all the skeletons and everything found archaeology-wise are proven fakes. And that's not incredibly correct. That told me immediately, the way he dismissed that he not really done his research. And he had not actually, he's dismissing the part that the Bible says there were giants in there quite a bit. So, what I want to do, I've done 3 other videos concerning giants. One would be melanin dominant giants, and the other one being mountain giants. Melanin dominant giants, which I believe that some of them, spanning in the past cycles on Earth that were, 25 feet tall, kind of like the times the melanin dominant that were also mentioned in the times in the Hindu scriptures as well. How they first talked about like Brahma and gods like that were actually 25 feet tall. That goes into the melanin dominant thing of beings that I think were actually from Triangulum. So please look at that video. Won't go into that any more than that. The other one is mountain giants, which actually have been described as having tusks quite a bit. So we'll go into that and kind of tie that into this information as well. So those are 2 other videos on the channel to look at, but we're going to tie this into slightly different because I believe this is connected as well. So this we're going to do over what's known as Native American mounds. So this would be the Mound Builders, all right? Now, when looking for information on this a lot, like what Edgar Casey said about it in his Origins book and things like that, there's not a lot of information given about them. It's just said that they were Native Americans, but it's not said a lot about what tribe they were. But I find that when you do your research, this actually connects into the giant folklore, all right? That actually the Mound Builders were giants. And more than that they were giants who were this race of cannibal giants that were very aggressive and resource consumers to that point. And we've talked about them before in the mountain giant video. And like I said, what's interesting is that some of these skulls that have been excavated were said to have not just double rows of teeth, but also horned, to be horned as well, horns. So I'll put a picture of that up too. But that's just something that kind of ties into that as well. And what's going on there as far as biological genetic experimentation with these horns and things like that. Very interesting. So that takes us into this mound, but when you start looking back into what would be like the 30s, 40s, especially the 50s, and do your own research and like Google, ancient skeletons and giant skeletons, and look for old newspaper articles, you'll get just dozens and dozens of them will come up. And I've been seeing them for a long time now. So it's something that was publicized a lot when they actually get leaked to the newspapers and things like that. I'm sure that those are all fakes. But a lot of these tie back to these mounds and these mound builders as far as some of these giant skeletons being excavated. From a couple of pictures I'll put up. You've got the Etowah mounds. There were supposed to be several that were found there. Also the Serpent Mound. And you've got the alligator mounds. Those are a couple ones that are worth looking up. Now, the point is that some of these, what's worth mentioning is some of these were reported to be giants. Like you might have several normal-sized people, and one of these bodies would be a giant. So that's it. That's some ways they were found also. So that wasn't always just apparently multiple giants in there. But this takes us to some of the ones that were reported. I'll put some of the articles up. They're said to be 18 feet tall, 15 feet tall, things of that nature. And if you look at what actually the Vedas or what the Hindu scriptures say, they talked about the first generation of like the giants and Brahmanan being 25 feet tall, 30 feet tall, and then they start going down as the genetics start spreading out. They start going people at 20 feet, 15, 10, then they start talking about 8 and 7 feet tall people. So I think that kind of correlates slightly to what we might be seeing here. It all ties into a point. Make sure I'm kind of nailing some of the things here so we don't go real long. One, like something to look up is some of the old mummies that came up, like the Martindale mummy. That'd be another one. You've got some of those corpses like that just disappear, and I think that's very interesting. We're going to talk more about that. Some of these, what is the big conspiracy to hide these giants and these giant bodies. And is Darwinism that important, truly? All right. So, worth mentioning again, when dealing with some of these giants that reported are also Native American in these mounds. And the names I found that I came up with were two tribes that are named quite a bit, and some of the researchers are talking about. And I don't want to mispronounce the name. I want to say Shusquannox, but it's spelled Susquehannocks. All right, and another one is the Andaste, Andaste. These are reported to be these giants that were Native Americans that would come in and raid tribes and take women and children and eat them. So that's the deal there. So that's kind of a little bit separate from some of the things that I talked about before, which is the Gugwe and the Genoska, which are types of Sasquatch that are reported to have snouts and be also cannibals as well. So I think it takes us into two types of possible predators that might be slightly different. One that is more humanoid, one that is human cannibals, and the other that is some type of species of Sasquatch that is saying, I don't really think the Genosko and Gugwes are really Sasquatch, but that's a whole other video you have to check out. I think that's another type of some sort of predator that's been introduced to discredit those beings too. I think as far as, when I say that, as far as introduced, that's why they're lone hunters, I believe. The Genoska and Gugwe are always described as being lone hunters. As to where these others were, these mound builders were described as being more of a tribe. So this very much connects the mound builders to giants. And then I want to kind of jump over a little bit into something else, which is Lovelock Cave. And that's come up a few times. I think Ancient Aliens had something about it. We'll talk about that too real quick, all right? The reason why, because it shows something evidence-wise. Now, I've been checking out for a while. There's a gentleman named Don Monroe that did a lot of cave explorations at ancient sites, and he teamed up with the gentleman M.K. Davis, who I appreciate a lot. And what they showed about this cave is one that this Don Monroe had taken pictures from 40 years ago of these skulls that were excavated from Lovelock Cave. All right, and they were actually red-haired giants. They're supposed to be. So I'll put pictures of those up. And when Ancient Aliens actually had showed it, I think it was David Childress was looking at it, and he's looking at several of them in this case. There's like 2 or 3, and the picture Don Monroe has, there were eight of these skulls, and along with a couple of mandibles also. And what happened? He's saying that they disappeared. So that's an issue right there. Why are they no longer at that museum? That museum apparently has a sign up now that says, in Nevada, it says, no red-haired giants. Oh, it's interesting. One of the skulls that you'll see in that picture has red hair on it. So what's going on there? So you have a definite discrepancy there in what's being told to us truth-wise. Now, something about Lovelock Cave is you have the Piute Indians that said that they cornered a race of giants in that cave and burned them alive. Okay, so that's the legend. And this is time we can start connecting myth to actually reality and seeing how much can be supported here. Now, inside that cave, M.K. Davis and Don Monroe were looking at a giant footprint, handprint, and I'll put it up on this thing. They actually measure it with this knife and other things. There's tar and certain type of a substance that would have been in the cave at that time that they did, like what ancients did, was put their hand on there. You've seen a lot of hand paintings like that on caves. So that's this one here, and it's big. And when you look at it, when they measure it, it measures 18 inches wide. That is huge. Now, when they go back I don't know how much time later, 6 months, a year later, to take a look at it again and go through the cave again, it's been vandalized and erased. So I'll put a picture of that up too, all right? And that shows you, and I remember MK saying how upset he was that actually it's so obvious that people are trying to erase our history like that. It's really disturbing. What's the big conspiracy there to not say that there were giants here? Besides what the reasons I said, Darwinism, is it that important? And we've got several different races of giants, different types of giants that have been here, once again showing that this place is a laboratory where you have all sorts of species that are doing genetic experiments here, and we just take these creatures such as cryptids and mythology and legend, and they just fall off into those type of parameters instead of being actually proven all the time. You know, so it's interesting to me. People want to dismiss the fossil record. There's obviously, like I told my friend, there's a cover-up. If you look into this and what I'm saying right now and research it for yourself, you see a cover-up. There's no way all those articles you can pull up right now were all fake concerning giant skeleton excavations. That's bull. Something's going on there. There's a couple of books I'll put up, Giants America and others, that you can look into that show that this is a definite truth here. Anyway, going back to the red-haired giants, like I said, that handprint had been destroyed. So I'll put pictures of that up. You can research all this for yourself, and it's just another way to kind of connect some of the giant legends that we have. The mountain giants, the melanin dominant giants that are sometimes, I think, mistakenly called Anunnaki, but we're dealing with a cycle before that, when Earth was still a past type 1 civilization. Got to go back further than that, further than what I think we have records of. Look at how some of those beings were described as being 25 feet tall, 30 feet tall. You know, in fact, I want to talk about a video coming up, Sasquatch and Hanuman, and how that actually was the monkey god that would have been the footprint they say they have of them, that guy is looking at was, it's huge. You're looking at another being would be 30 feet tall, and it makes you wonder who would actually the Sasquatch be spiritually looking towards. You know, it's as intelligent as they are. Just food for thought, but that's another video. Anyway, just please do this research for yourself. I want to thank everybody that is supporting on this channel. Thank you to the people on Patreon. A lot of cool comments coming in. Please like and share the videos. Still trying to beat the shadow ban and do this shift of consciousness we're kind of going into. I hope that this video finds you all in good health.